All right, we've made it to the last step in our journey in terms of generating reports for our students. So we left off in our last video with average percentages for each of our different concepts that we were checking for. Okay, so each person has got their own percentage. And also when we come back over, we can see the person's full name. And there's a small error in our spreadsheet that I just noticed, but it's an easy fix. Under submission time, we have email addresses. Let's just do a really quick fix and say email. Okay, sorry about that. But now I think we're all good to go. Let's get started. So let me show you the exemplar of what we're actually trying to accomplish. So we can go to the exemplar Google Drive folder that I shared with you. And there's the exemplar sample output folder. In there, each of my students have their own report. And when I open each one, we can see the person's name and their score on each of the different concepts. Then below it, I have general advice for people who scored above a certain threshold and advice for people who scored below a certain threshold, helping me to differentiate for each person. So students who are strong can go deeper, and students who need some support know what to do. And I might even say, have some small group time with Mr. Alex in there as well. It's really up to you as a professional how you want to interact with your students when you can kind of see their assessment data. Okay, so heading back out of the exemplars. Okay, so inside of the resources folder that I've shared with you, on the appendices page, you can see that there's resources as a very first one. So when we click on that, it should open up this Google Drive folder. So at the moment, I can see that I have the originals that ask you to copy, and Mr. Max has his data set. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up copy letter template by going down to make a copy. Okay, and let's rename it to Max or whatever your name might be and say letter template. Okay, great. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Now let's take a look again at our data set. We're going to go to add-ons and we're going to get this little add-on called Autocrat. I've already installed it. In case you haven't, let's go down to get add-ons. And we can just search for Autocrat. I believe it's one word, yeah. So it's a kind of crazy robot guy looking at a spreadsheet, and you're gonna see a little blue button if you have not installed it. Let's click on the blue button that says free, and after it installs, we're going to close the add-on window, and let's go back to add-on drop-down list, and let's go to Autocrat and launch. And again, if I'm going too fast, feel free at any point in this to pause my video, go back and rewatch me. So Autocrat sometimes can be a little bit slow. Let's be patient while we let it load. After a few moments, Autocrat has pulled up my existing jobs. I have none. We're gonna go ahead and create a new job by clicking on New Job. Okay, let's give it a name. I'm gonna just call this one Unit 2 Feedback. You can call it anything that you like, anything that's relevant to the unit that you might be working on. Okay, let's go ahead and click on Next. Choose the template. So do you remember a moment ago, we made Max sample template? I think that's what we called it. Letter template. Remember we made this copy of the letter template? Okay, so Max letter template. We're now gonna look for that particular file. Let's choose from Drive. And it doesn't say it, but this is your recent Google Drive files. So we can see Max letter template there. Perfect. Let's select it. If you like, you can change the letter template. You can change its colors, its content. You can do anything that you like. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next screen actually. And now I'd like to actually look at the letter template before we talk about this to help us understand a little bit. So let's go and open the template there. So for us to generate reports, we really have to have a data set and a letter template open. These are our two main files. So I'd like to just zoom in on the letter template. The one I showed you before had a person's name here, but actually I'm going to tell Autocrat to find things that have this kind of code with the two triangular brackets. So I have a few. And I'm going to ask it to insert a piece of data from my spreadsheet. So I wrote triangular bracket, triangular bracket, and then I wrote just kind of like a reminder for what I want to put in there. The thing here in the center is not necessarily important in terms of what you write, but I recommend you choose something that reminds you of the column that you're inserting. So I want full name, and I want average for concept 1, average for concept 2, and average for concept 3. So I wrote full name, average %1, average %2, average %3. And I even highlighted it so that it would stand out to the students. You can really play with these things any way you like. You can, change its color, make it red, you do whatever you want, make it bigger. So I just like yellow because it's going to stand out and pop out to the kids when I hand them the reports. So if you're happy with the way your template looks, let's come back to Autocrat and let's take a look at what it says. Map source data. So now we're going to tell it where to put each of the different pieces of data into our template. So the first thing is we want to tell it which one of our tabs do we want it to pull from. So the first thing is make sure to go to Max's grade book. And now it's just going to look in there and it's going to pull up the different columns. So the first option here, let's leave everything as standard. And it said from our template letter, it noticed these different fields. And now it's asking over here, what would you like to take from your spreadsheet? So let's say full name is going to be, what is your full name? Average %1 is going to be average %1. So it's pretty easy because we had prepared for this. We labeled everything clearly. So average %2, and all the way down to average %3. That's it. Really, the hard work is done now. So let's fill out a few more little details that we'd like Autocrat to kind of automatically create for us. So file name, let's pull out the list over here and let's choose this kind of code that says, what is your full name? By clicking it, it's copied it for us. We can click paste. So what is your full name? It's going to actually put the kid's name there, and we can say Unit 2 report, or whatever you like to say. So it's going to name it inside Google Drive with this sort of naming structure. And type, I like to choose Google Docs because that means that the student can actually open it and perhaps comment and we can have some sort of interaction online with it. But there is a downside. We have to think about it being editable because somebody could edit their score. So if you would like them to share it with their parents or with someone else, it might be inaccurate. So you can choose a PDF if you want to lock it in. But if you'd like some sort of interaction, I recommend Google Doc. So the next one says output as multiple output mode. That means each person will get their own file. If you're printing them, you might want to choose single output. So just have a long list of everybody's reports inside of one doc, and then you could just print one thing, as opposed to printing one by one with this. In my teaching style, I'm going to make one file for each person and share it with that individual. So I'll choose classic mode. Choose destination folder. If you haven't done it yet, in your own Google Drive or inside my resources for teachers, you can make another folder if you like. Either one is fine for our practice. Let's make a new folder and let's call this one Max's output folder, or anything that you like. And let's click create. Okay, so back over in our spreadsheet, let's now choose the folder. And the way that Autocrat works is it always shows the most recent things up at the top, so we can see Max's output folder first. Let's go ahead and select. Great. And I can see resources for teachers. This is something else I had done in the past, so if you see anything else, feel free to remove it by clicking its trash can. Okay, so we want everything to go to Max's output folder. Let's go ahead and go to next. And there's some options here. Add dynamic folder reference, we're not going to be using that. And set merge condition, we're not doing that today. We're focusing on kind of the basic features of merging, but those are two very fun things that you could investigate on your own later. Okay, so share doc and send emails. If you say no, it'll just go to your own Google Drive folder, the end, and then you need to figure out what to do with it. But hey, we're dealing with automation and with computers. Shouldn't we make computers work for us? So I'm going to say share doc as, editable Google Doc. That's the thing I was warning about earlier. You might want to choose comment only on doc. So that way there can still be some discourse about what was happening and maybe giving some advice and setting some goals based off of what was seen in the report. And people can't edit the actual score. So there's still some honesty around what's inside the report. So that's my favorite. Next, allow collaborators to reshare. Okay, so maybe the kid wants to share it with their parents. Send from generic no reply address. No, I'm going to send it from my own Google address, my own Gmail address. So down below, we have the template for the email. So 2, we can use tags again over in this little blue pop-out. So we can click on that and we can say email. And go ahead and paste that. So now it's just going to look up the student's email address and it's going to generate this email. So we're going to say Unit 2 report. And we can do a really quick little message. Dear, and let's insert what's your full name by clicking and pasting. Here's your Unit 2 report. Please have a look at it and notice what your strengths and areas for improvement are. I've got somebody walking around behind me. I'm just recording a video. I'm going to keep doing this. Okay, I'll talk to you in a minute. We're almost done, teachers, and we're almost done, Henry. We can see I'm a popular guy, so just give me a minute. This is going to be on YouTube, by the way. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll talk to you in a minute. So edit that one out. That's a blooper. Okay, so here's our message. Please have a look at it and notice what your strengths and areas for improvement are. Mr. Alex, or whatever your name might be, you can put there. Great. Add and remove job triggers. These are also some kind of fun things. We're going to skip those for right now to save time, and we're going to just click on save. So then we're going to get a playable action. It's going to actually save these sort of settings in our Autocrat account. And at any time we can come back and we can play our different actions. It's all automatic for you. So you might have a student who is sick, and when she comes back to school, she's got her report inside of your spreadsheet, and you want to generate a report to her. There you go. Okay, so I've got it actually listed out twice here. So once I hit play, it's going to do its thing. And I'm actually not going to do it because it's going to send out a bunch of emails to people, but I'll show you the effect. When we hit play, it's going to think for a few minutes, so give it some time. And if I just come over to the end, you're going to see some links over here to each person's Google Drive file. And then we're also going to see inside your output folder, every single person is going to have their own file. Let me just look at my exemplar that I did earlier for you. So you're going to see something like this. It named each one with the kid's name, like I told it to. And it's also going to email that kid and say, hey, here's your feedback from Mr. Alex. So if I just open that really quickly. So again, as I showed you at the beginning of the video, we're going to see each person's name and each of their scores in each of those different concepts. So this has a huge impact on my personal instruction, where kids start noticing where they're at. And I notice that they start spending their time focusing on what they need to do, and we utilize their strengths in helping others. So to just kind of summarize and conclude this, what I have students do is, if they're working on, let's say, this strategy here, I might ask them to make a note or a comment, and we could have that conversation about what they're working on. So if I give them the green light and say, yep, you're on the right track, that sounds good, or if I'd like them to adjust, we can also do that there. So it's a great way for metacognition, for people to start thinking about where they're at and what they need to work on. It's, you know, they're really assessing themselves here. I'm helping to make that possible. So to just summarize, make sure that when you're using Autocrat, that you've got some sort of simple feedback that you would like people to notice, especially when I'm working with students who are not quite so savvy with working with data. This sort of stuff can be overwhelming for them. So that's why I recommend choosing something that's kind of straightforward and simple for them to work on. And the power of individual reports, it appears that the teacher has spent a lot of time writing these individual reports, and people highly value this sort of message, and it's just been very helpful. So I hope you found this video series as helpful in your own practice as I have in my own. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.